Hello, welcome to Deep Learning in Finance. So in this episode, I will try to talk about this channel. Why am I having this channel, for whom it's targeting, and what will be covered. First, the why. So I teach business undergraduates and graduate students, and a few years back, there's been an interesting news here, which is that Alphabet, the former Google, spent a lot of money, more than $500 million, to buy a small company called DeepMind that had several dozen researchers and scientists. And there was a lot of money to pay just for this human capital. So what was this about? Well, the company specialized in writing programs that can learn itself how to play games, like here, like this game here. There's a program that basically learns how to play Pac-Man itself. And that was interesting enough. But the more interesting thing is that it took it to a more serious level and wrote a program that can play a very complex game, the game of Go, and beat the human champion, Lee Sedol. And that was on the news big time, and got the attention of the general public. And soon afterwards, also a group of Carnegie Mellon computer scientists developed a program that actually learned itself how to play poker and challenged the world poker champions and also beat them. And now it's coming to attention that these computer programs are actually maybe have potential to replacing what typically belong to human beings, the kind of intelligent decisions, isn't it? And not surprisingly, the subject area that I'm interested in finance, a lot of companies since then have been adopting these technologies to aid their decision making. And it's all in a positive direction, but as an educator for my business school students, it also is a worrying sign that if you look at the technological innovation in the past, like robots, industrial revolution and all this, it kind of had initially a negative impact on the blue collar workers, isn't it? The manual laborers are largely being replaced. But this time around, the innovation is coming for the mental task, and it is impacting the white collar jobs a lot, like this GM cuts, isn't it? So that is already alarming. And but one of the bright lining is that the employees that are actually able to understand computer and software automation are actually being spared and still hiring for these jobs. So, and that at the attention of many business schools, and I, including myself, we've been trying to teach about this technology to our business school majors for several years. And it's not to turn to business school students into computer scientists, but rather have them being aware of this technological innovation and be able to communicate with the fellow engineers to make a better business decisions. So this is, and this YouTube link is that since we accumulated it several times, I've been recording many several hundred YouTube videos for my students, but it's becoming repetitive. So this YouTube channel serves as a repository for some of the basic ideas and commonly used ideas. Also, I feel that for non-computer science experts, it would benefit for this non-computer scientists also to know this technology, but make it a little bit more accessible. So whom I am targeting is my business school majors, including my students, but also other business school students, but also the general public who are just interested in this technology, but want to have a little bit watered down accessible means. What will be covered? Not surprisingly, my main interest is in finance. So finance and economics applications are my main interest, but also from time to time, if there are interesting applications, I will try to cover context from social science and humanities and such when things arise. The kind of materials is that some of the basic ideas behind these algorithms, if you want to call it watered down theory, so be it, but also actual implementation, how to set up these machine learning packages on your computer. I will go through with you step by step so you can do it. You don't even have to have a fancy computer these days. You can just do it on the web. So I'll show you how to do that too. And also then go over actual sample codes, simple watered down codes that actually runs, and I will run it with you to see how it works. And whenever occasion arises, of course, I will try to extend it to a more practical finance or economics or social science application. So that's a topic wise I will cover. The last subject is that a little bit of zoology of the machine learning world, or more broadly AI. So what I will cover in terms of this specific area is that there's a broad discipline called artificial intelligence, which is a rather ambitious task of replacing or mimicking all human intellectual activities. And that's a very broad task. I don't know when it will be fulfilled. It'll take a while. But there's a narrower field, subfield, which we call machine learning. And that is especially a set of programs or algorithms that basically tries to infer from the data rather than hard coding the program what to do. And there are three types of things: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. Just to 1 minute spiel would be supervised learning is when the data actually has the correct answer. For economics major, you probably heard about regression. There's a Y variable, which is the correct answer based on the explanatory X variables like age, gender, and all this. You try to explain this using the age, gender, and all this to predict the default rate or something, isn't it? So there's always a correct answer for this. And then having the program learn it is a little bit easier. It's called supervised learning. Unsupervised learning is when there are no Y variables and only X variables are there. There's still things to do to what does this X, can you group them in a way that is meaningful in some sense? So that in general, there are many techniques to do this. For finance majors, factor pricing is probably a close cousin to this idea. Or principal component analysis, if you heard about such words. We'll talk about those, but simply, this is a field where they don't have a Y variable and only X variables are there. It's called unsupervised learning. And then finally, what I in the beginning mentioned, the AlphaGo and all this, there are these new kind of programs that, well, it's been since late 1980s, it's an old program called reinforcement learning. For economists, probably dynamic programming is one special area that has been popular since the 1950s, but it's got a lot more sophisticated. It's basically a program that learns from past failure. It's a trial and error learning program. The close analogy is training a dog. You try to teach a dog a trick. In the beginning, it doesn't learn. It doesn't do it, but accidentally the dog does the correct move. Then you give a treat, and the dog keeps getting the idea that if the dog does the correct move, then it gets a treat, and so it learns, isn't it? And this kind of based on this idea, trying to train a program, it's called reinforcement learning. So we'll cover all supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. But within each of those learning categories, we'll focus more on the deep learning, meaning the multi-layer neural network-based algorithms most of the time. Then other algorithms like random forest, regression, and these, there are many wonderful existing disciplines that teach us that. So I focus more on the deep learning part of it. But if it becomes necessary, of course, I will mention some of these techniques as well. Right? So this is about the channel, why I'm doing it, and who is this for, and what I will be covering. And so thank you for watching this video, and hope to see you next time. Thank you.